You're listening to the Classic Gamers Guild podcast.
Well, Paul, here we are again. You'll have to excuse me if I sound a little bit weird. I am kind of battling a cold. I don't know why I threw that in there, but it's leading absolutely nowhere. EcoQuest. We're talking about EcoQuest.
Yes, or as some like to say, EcoQuest.
You know what? That's one of the things I was going to mention. I learned a lot from this game, and one of those is that canonically it is EcoQuest, because they actually say it in the game. I can't even remember anymore exactly why they brought up the word EcoQuest. It's a little bit weird that they would actually say that in the game. But I did make notice of it that I did go through the talkie version, unfortunately. Ugh. I did not like the voice acting. But I did learn it was supposed to be EcoQuest. And yeah, other things that I learned from this game is that if you hacky sack something into the trash, that's called a slam dunk.
All right. That
I don't know if you caught that. I don't know if you caught that. He takes a little piece of trash. What's the kid's name again?
Adam,
that's right. Adam takes a little piece of trash at the very beginning when you're like trying to learn to recycle everything. And it's like a little ball of paper that he throws up, kicks it, and it lands in the recycling bin. And he shouts, "Slam dunk!"
I wonder if they had like an Englishman on their team. That sounds like our perception of American basketball. Like, probably.
Anyways, okay, so what did you think? Like, you're the one who really had it in for me playing this game. This is not, it wasn't simply, oh, do you want to play EcoQuest? I was like, yeah, sure. It was like, maybe another time. And like over the span of weeks and months, you eventually chipped away at me until I caved in and played it.
Yeah, well, in my defense, I gave you a list of 3 games, but I immediately slandered the other 2 games to nudge you in this direction. And as a whole, the other 2 games are probably better, but I wanted to cover this game because it's not a game I think that gets talked about almost at all or very often. And the other 2 games, to everyone listening, we were trying to find a game that was like 4 hours or under to be able to get something out for you. I wanted to cover something from this Sierra Discovery series. Is this game fun? Well, that's a strong word. It's enjoyable. It's almost like it's just an interesting little study for me, I think more than anything, just to reflect on this game. And I think the reason I really picked it, getting to my bloody point, is it had a message about the environment that was, I think, ahead of its time.
Yeah, no, I can, and maybe you tell me, because I did ask you just before recording, you said that you played the floppy disk version, so you played like the full-on no voice, which I think is probably the ideal way to play this. My version had voices, so I kind of committed to it just because I was already in that rabbit hole. I actually can't even, I don't even know if there was an option to turn off the voices. I can't remember anymore, because I was just sort of like, well, you know what, I might as well just, if nothing else, it'll be something to talk about. And I'll be perfectly honest with you, I think that the voice acting took it down. I kept imagining the entire time what it would be like without the voice acting, and I do think that would be a far superior experience. I don't really have anything against the game. It's clearly not regarded on the same level as a Space Quest or Quest for Glory, and I think there's good reason for that. I was only really aware of the game's existence within the past couple years. But I could still kind of figure, like, okay, putting myself back to, when did this come out? Like 92, 91 or something like that?
I think 91, yeah.
Yeah. So I was like 11 or 12 maybe at this time. And I can imagine that given the context of this probably would have been like the one game I will be playing for that 3 months. And it was a game at all because I was obsessed with games at that time. And, it was, all the components are pretty good. The graphics are really good. Thing it's a cool enough game for edutainment. I'll give it that. So I think I could have probably gotten into this, but just the voices ruined it. Like, I'm not going to say that they aren't talented voice actors. It's just that the voices that they gave, I really would have just rather to leave it in my own head and use my own imagination. I think the voices really drag it down to an after school cartoon kind of feel. Whereas, otherwise I could have just taken it a little bit more seriously as, an all ages game as opposed to for kids.
Right. I'm glad you said that, because that was kind of what I was going to steer into, is having not played it with voices. I got the vibe that this game, it doesn't really play necessarily like a kid's game, or like a, edutainment game. It just plays as a lighthearted, slightly barely dumbed down Sierra game. Whereas as soon as you add in, the voice of Adam, let's say, who drives the entire game, you can't escape that, childish feel to it. So I'd imagine, having not played it, I'd imagine the voice acting just immediately brings this right back to a Discovery series, a kid-like game. Whereas without it really doesn't. It plays as just kind of a light, breezy, normal Sierra game. That you happen to be a kid. Not really anything like Willy Beamish, but in that same kind of spirit where it doesn't, just because you're a child doesn't mean it's for children, sort of thing. Even though, unlike Willy Beamish, this one was for kids or directed to it. And but anyway, I did play this game when it came out, and as you made mention, it was that one game that I had for 3 or 6 months or whatever. So yeah, of course I got well into it. I was probably 10 years old or something when we.
Oh, so you actually played it at the time it came out?
I did. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you actually have the context for this.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. I remember even making my own little comic book of this game. I believe. I wish I knew where that was. Well, actually, I don't wish that. Anytime I wish I had something old and then I find it, it's just really embarrassing. So we'll let that be in the past. But yeah. I mean, I won't get too much into the nostalgia factor for me, because It to me, it's just a game. It's a fine game. It's not like, everyone listening knows that I harp on a lot about like Gold Rush and stuff. It doesn't have that level of nostalgia for me, that I'll defend it to its death or whatever. But it is a bit of a nostalgic trip for me. Like my father at the time was a scuba diver, which there's a lot of mention of that. I think you even scuba dive at some point in this game, and his father does. So it kind of,
it's almost the entire game, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so. That is how humans survive underwater, isn't it? With scuba diving. But so there was things like that made me, made it stick out for me as a child. And then I replayed it a few months ago, and I was overall just kind of impressed with how normal of a Sierra game it was. Just kind of a PG Sierra game as opposed to a kids game. I'll stop beating that point to death. I finally made it.
It's actually a very important point to make, because I seriously dare you to look it up on YouTube and just watch a walkthrough and just listen to the voices, and just it really does affect the tone of the game. And like I said, every time I kept trying to picture it without the voices, I'd be like, no, I could actually play this as just like a Sierra game that's a little bit more all ages and less PG. And they don't allow deaths, which is unfortunate, because if you're going to be in the bottom of the ocean, there's so many cool ways that you could die, and I don't care if it's a kid. But there's potential for some really awesome deaths. It's a Sierra game, but unfortunately, they're like, oh, we can't kill a kid. So I guess I'm thinking, I guess they want to be less punishing since the target demographic is for kids. But I don't know. I just thought it was a missed opportunity if they weren't going in that direction, because I'm like, damn, there's so many ways you could die in this. That'd be awesome.
Let's bloody off some children here. There's a lot of panicky ways to die in the ocean.
Yeah.
There's a
million ways to die in the sea. Just it'd be. I think it'd be great to explore some of that.
Yeah, and they actually had there's a pretty intense kind of creepy villain in this, in the form of a gigantic black manta ray. That's kind of ominous and creepy. It would have been nice to see old Adam get offed a few times by him.
I'm actually really glad, because they they introduce like, oh, he's a manta ray that eats stuff, but then they actually do specifically point out, oh, manta rays aren't usually like this, but for the purpose of this game, it is. So I was like, kind of like, okay, well, I'm glad that they actually pointed out the fact of like, oh yeah, manta rays are not actually the harmful rays; they're just the most badass looking. So it's good that they cleared that up, and it was really cool that they kind of they didn't talk down to kids very much. Like there were a lot of times where like there's some new words that even I kind of only half knew in this, and I'm really glad that they're sticking to the whole use whatever words and let the kids figure it out because that's how they learn, right? Because I learned a lot of words through Police Quest and Space Quest and Quest for Glory and all those games. I hate it when games are like, oh, we can't use a word because kids don't know what it means. Like, well, yeah, teach us something, right? So
yeah, exactly. No, you're right, and that's such a good way to put it too. Because they didn't dumb it down. They didn't talk down to you in the game. It also plays into that strength of it doesn't really, again, without the voices, it doesn't really feel like a kids game because they set the bar where it was and let the kids ask questions and learn that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I've there's like I said, there's not really much I can really criticize about this game. It wasn't spectacular either. It's not like a favorite of mine, but like I said, it's just the voiceover is really the only thing I really took issue with. It was I think it was kind of funny though. If I will point out one little nitpick about it, where it's like the the dolphin who's been kind of helping you eventually gets caught in a trap. Spoilers, and the manta ray, called Flesh Eater, I believe that's his name, takes him
Very
away.
Metal.
Yeah. Takes him away. Like you were both stuck in there. You managed to save yourself, and your friends are like, "Oh, save yourself." You're like, "No, I can't just leave you here." And he's like, "Well, no point both of us dying. So just go find Cetus because he's the only thing that can help me now." And then the manta ray takes him away. I'm sort of like, "Well, gee, that's easy, isn't it? Just find something in the ocean."
Yeah. We're not going to take any advantage of the fact that you're the only thing down here that can get on land and use your.
Well, I mean, my point is like, they established that Cetus has gone missing. From what I hear, the ocean is a pretty big space. There's not really, and there's not really like, oh, it's not like find something in this attic. It's like find something in all of the ocean that is missing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit of a needle in a haystack. There was a couple of times my attention was drawn to how much oxygen he may or may not be, equipped with.
Details. Yeah, like if we're to believe Police Quest, it lasts you about 15 minutes. We would believe this, it lasts you about like 2 days. So
yeah.
And it's kind of funny because again, spoilers. We're just always going to be giving spoilers from here on out. But you do find Cetus, and he's just sort of like there, like it's kind of like he was harpooned in one spot, and you had to get to him by passing through a boat. But there's no reason why you couldn't have seen him from any other point in the game at all.
Right.
It's like, oh, Cetus is missing. Yeah, he's right there. He's not moving, and he's a giant sperm whale. He's literally right there. If you just turn your head slightly, you can see him from here.
Yeah, that's a good point too. And they even the way they illustrate him is just enormous. A very hard to miss, gigantic, just a dormant whale in the ocean. I'm definitely gonna have to go in and look at a playthrough on YouTube because I need to hear these voices now and the little things that you picked up on there. I kind of want to see again just to have a few yucks with it. Before I move on, like you said, it was an awesome message for kids, and it makes me wish the game was more popular. It definitely came out around the time where Sierra Games and Adventure Games had to start competing with console, and it's almost a shame this game wasn't extremely popular because who knows what state the environment might be in if it was able to influence enough kids, because it definitely gets you thinking. my mum was always a bit of a hippie at heart, so these two games always kind of stuck with me, reminding me of her. Like that would be something she would have put emphasis on growing up. The sequel to this game is EcoQuest 2: Lost Secrets of the Rainforest, and that basically covers the same thing of what us humans are doing to the rainforest. So anyway, the whole series has a really cool message. But back to kind of having some fun with it. What I love about this game.
Sorry, I just want to cut you off for 1 second, and just to the listeners, just sort of, we do apologize for the sound of a child in the background. There's really not a whole lot we can do about it at this point, but just because we are kind of under the wire to get this episode done, if you could just excuse us and just allow us this time. The kid's going to be, it's Paul's, it's not mine. If it was mine, I'd actually be able to handle it. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. I don't have kids, and this is why. So just if you do hear him running around, I'm apologizing on Paul's behalf. But
if it makes you feel better, Rick has promised to next air me some children's NyQuil, so this doesn't happen again in the future. No. And I will say, my child has me by the beans, because any sort of discipline will involve him being even louder. So we're just rolling with it. But then this is, from here you can kind of tell the difference in cultural upbringing. I am Korean, and my parents are Korean, and therefore I learned that when kids behave this way, they are to be punched in the mouth. So had it been my child, I probably would have made sure that he is not capable of making any sounds by force. So that's why I say, if it had been my kid, he wouldn't be making this. I'm not saying that I would have been any better parent. I'm just saying that I would have used brute force until he shut up. If we're going to delve into the fun, all the joys behind stereotypes, I would like to also counter that perhaps you could put chopsticks up their nose. Isn't that
No, that's not. We use a wooden spoon to smack them. Seriously, no, this is literally. I'm not joking. When kids get unruly, at least in my generation, I don't know what it's like now because I don't have a kid of my own. But growing up, if you're unruly, the parents are fully entitled to their favorite wooden spoon to enforce the rules of the house.
It's not quite as glamorous as the chopsticks in the nose, but I'll take it.
Anyways, so the point being that if only you had a copy of EcoQuest to pacify your child, then it would be a different situation.
I do plan on using Sierra games to teach him how to spell and type as opposed to any sort of schooling. I think he's going to do it like me.
Anyway, sorry. So I cut you off there just because I just in case people were curious about the background noises. We do acknowledge that there is a child in the background. It is not some secret underground child slavery ring that we're trying to keep under wraps.
Yeah, no, not at all. This bloody kid couldn't throw together a pair of Nikes to save his life.
That's where my people come in.
Got himself. I love it. Anyway, the point I was making about this game. So I got stuck at one point. There's a puzzle involving totem poles. I feel like it's the kind of puzzle that's been done in lots of games where you have to spin the totem pole and match 3 images. And I got stuck. Had to go to a walkthrough. And in doing so, I learned that Sierra, air quotes, made a mistake and accidentally made that a dead end. So if you the first image you turn, if that's not correct, it'll lock into place, and that's it. The game just won't go forward. Adam doesn't die or get hit by a wooden spoon or anything fun like that. The game just, you're just stuck. You have to restart. But I love how
we've never seen that in a Sierra game before, have we?
Exactly. I love how bloody Sierra that is. Even in the Discovery series, there's just a cruel. This is from children, man. There's just really cruel. And honestly, like Sarah's so used to the way they did things. I kind of don't believe, or at least I don't want to believe that it was a mistake. I think that that's just the way they are. And they probably, at some point, somebody said like, hey, this was a kid's game. We shouldn't have that in there. And they were probably like, oh shit, you're right.
And the most Sierra thing about it is that you probably can't even tell that it's screwed up when it happens. It's just kind of like, just keep working at that. See how long it takes you to figure out that you're screwed.
Yes, exactly. And looking it up and learning that, I would have never sought answers for that. I was just content in knowing like it's a Sierra game. Here's one of the dead ends that happens. So they offered an excuse. You
did when you pitched me to play the game, or I should say when I finally caved in and decided to play the game. You did warn me specifically about that puzzle, so I thankfully did not spend too much time there, because that is definitely something I would not want to do. Is we had to get this game ready under a very short period of time, because the game that we originally had planned to play for this episode didn't end up working out, so we were kind of down to the wire and like, okay, we need a game that we can finish in less than 4 hours. Or fewer than 4 hours, whatever the grammatically is correct. I don't know. I'm under a lot of NyQuil at the moment, but it was like, okay, how about
unlike my child?
So it's like, how about EcoQuest? Sure, why not? Whatever, I don't care. And EcoQuest are like, hey, it's a quest. Right. It's Sierra. Maybe this will get back some of the listeners that we've lost over the last couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll tuck into some classic for you lot. We promise. I guess if I was to say one thing about this game for anyone listening who's like, it's going to go one of two ways. Either A, hearing this podcast is all the experience with EcoQuest they'll ever need, and that's fine. Or, it could be like, well, now that I've heard about it, I'd like to go check it out. So I'll just say as far as like a sort of sales pitch is, keep your expectations realistic for a Discovery Series title. But that being said, if you've been avoiding it because you feel like it's a kid's game, don't. Like, if you're avoiding it for any other reason, totally cool. But don't avoid it because it's a Discovery Series game, because I do think if you play the floppy version with no bloody voices, I do think you'll get an experience that will probably be surprisingly good in the sense that it doesn't really play like a child's game.
Like you said, provided you use the floppy disk version, because there was no escaping that it was a kid's game with the voices, and I kind of really felt, that kind of driven home while I was playing it. And I was kind of like, man, and for the very beginning part of it, it did feel a little bit heavy-handed with the educational stuff, and I was kind of like, this is why I liked a game like Carmen Sandiego, because I didn't really feel like I was learning. It just let me learn.
Right.
Right. And I learned some cool things from Carmen Sandiego.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. I can't stop driving home this point. If it didn't have the voices, I would have been completely okay with it.
Yeah, no, and I totally get that, because I have kind of an aversion towards child actors in general. I'm just I get easily annoyed by child actors, even if they're pretty good. I don't like, even the best of them. I still think they're kind of shit. It's like they're good for kids, I guess. I don't like kid actors and voice acting and stuff like that.
Adam sounds like Linus from Charlie Brown. Like literally, like if you watch like the Charlie Brown Christmas special or something like that, it sounds like one of those kids. I'm tempted to say Linus because I kind of felt like, while I was listening to these voices, that was what jumped in my head. I was like, this sounds like it'd be Linus or something from Charlie Brown. But even worse was the voice of, what is that dolphin's name? It was some weird, Delphinius. The voice of Delphinius, I think, was like kind of like the worst one, just because I'm sort of like, oh, just let me imagine this guy's voice, because this is just like the worst voice that they could have chosen. That just really drives home that's for kids. And the narrator has a nice voice, read the lines fine, but just really drove home that whole edutainment aspect to it all.
Yeah.
And it was just, yeah. I'll try to not bring up the voices anymore because that's all I've been talking about. But literally, there's really not a whole lot I could say about this game except it was fine. Just the voices sucked. That's all I can really contribute to this conversation.
Well, my blanket statement about this game is the same. It's this game is fine. I just don't add the voices part because I didn't play that version. But overall, it's just fine. It's a good bloody time. It moves by quick. It's nice to play a game with achievable puzzles because even though it's a kids game, I kind of blocked that out and allowed myself to be proud of myself. So I'm like, oh, I'm bloody killing it at this game. I'm slaughtering these puzzles. I'm so good at this, which I've never felt like before during an adventure game. So that was nice for the old ego.
This is almost this is probably like a precursor to the hidden object game as we know it today, because it really is. There's not really a whole lot of puzzles. There are some if you want to progress to the main story, but a lot of like the points. If you're a completionist, you want points. It's basically here's a screen, find all the things you need to clean up.
Yeah, it's kind of, you're more running errands than doing puzzles in this game. And I love that such a large chunk of this game is cleaning up garbage, because everybody knows that children in 1991 loved nothing more than cleaning up rubbish. That was a bloody good time. It's a fun scavenger hunt. It's just cleaning up garbage. But
I think if they might have marketed this as a kid's game, because I don't know much about the Discovery series. I was very sheltered away from it by around this time, so I never knew about it. Like I said, I didn't even know EcoQuest was a thing until a couple of years ago. So I don't know how much it was marketed for kids, but I think if it did, I think that's probably the disservice. I think there was too many people who passed it up because, it's an edutainment title. It's made for kids to teach them things, and I don't play games for learning. And I mean, I guess that might have sold a few people based on that, but I think there's probably a lot of people who would have gotten a good 3-star experience out of this if they bothered to try it.
Yeah, there you go. No, I'd agree. I think anyone listening now, I don't think we have any younger listeners, so I think I confidently say anyone listening now that was to go play it, I think 9 out of 10 will walk away with that 3-star review. Like you said, I think you'd be a little impressed by it, considering it's a Discovery series, and if not that, then just thinking, yeah, it's fine. But yeah, the Discovery series was like some of the other games in that was like Pepper's Adventures in Time.
I've never even heard of that until now. Oh, Dr. Brain? Did you say Dr. Brain? Because that was a good one.
Yeah.
Why didn't you recommend I play that one?
Because people know that one, right? I'm trying to.
Fair enough.
Since we've just lost some listeners, let's go with something ridiculously obscure to get them back.
Let's bring them back with some edutainment.
But I guess my point with the Discovery series, it's kind of a mix. Like Dr. Brain is actually kind of a good time still. Pepper's Mixed Up Mother Goose, Mixed Up Fairy Tales. I haven't revisited them, so I don't know, but I can't imagine they're particularly a good time for adults, nostalgia aside.
Well, Mixed Up Mother Goose is like old. Isn't it?
It is. I just read this the other day from one source, so I could be wrong, but I just read that was the first like multimedia CD-ROM game ever released.
Mixed Up Mother Goose?
Not sure. Yeah, Mixed Up Mother Goose. I was totally surprised by that. And I heard it from a guy on the internet.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's from a guy on the internet. It's pretty reputable.
I'm gonna have to look that up because I thought that was like AGI era. I thought that was like old school. I know Mixed Up Fairy Tales.
This game has Mother Goose has a lot of versions of it. I think there might even be 4, but there's an AGI, and then there's an SCI EGA, and then there's a CD-ROM.
Okay, so it's just been remade a bunch of times. Because I know,
I had to get my pocket protector out for that. That was a really nerdy stat.
Because I know Mixed Up Fairy Tales is one that I wasn't aware of for the longest time. So I only knew about Mixed Up Mother Goose, Mixed Up Fairy Tales. I only learned, a lot of these things I just learned recently is really within the last couple of years. So when people say Mixed Up Fairy Tales, I kind of thought they were talking about Mixed Up Mother Goose. I didn't realize it was like a totally different thing.
Right. And yeah, same here with those two. I didn't know about fairy tales until recently. I think I had Mother Goose growing up because I recognized the opening screen and that weird tingly spider sense this has happened before vibe, but I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah. I do remember probably, I know we're going way off track here, but I'm just going to say that I remember probably around the time when the VGA point and clicks, no, not even, probably late 90s, early 2000s when I first kind of discovered abandonware was a thing, is when I finally got around to playing Mixed Up Mother Goose, because I found a copy of it lying around on the internet. And by that point I was already kind of like, nah, I missed the boat on this one. This isn't anything that I'm going to have any fun playing. But I hear good things about Mixed Up Fairy Tales, so maybe we should try that one of these days.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I imagine it's probably a right good time if you played it when you were younger, like, you know, like Gold Rush to me, like I stand by the fact that I don't expect most people to enjoy that. Not that it's a kid's game, but it does try and teach you some things, which is not cool. Mm-hmm. And yes, and with EcoQuest, like I didn't play the second one growing up at all, and I just not replay it. I just played it for the first time like 6 months ago or whatever. And I have the exact same opinion on the first one. It's good. If anything, I guess surprisingly good, because I was looking at it like, maybe this is for kids and blah, blah, blah. But I really did enjoy the second one as well. The second one has great music too. But yeah, these are cool little gems to unearth. I mean, I think another reason I wanted to bring this one up as opposed to some of the more well-known ones we talked about is, everyone in this little niche that loves these old Sierra games or Lucas or whatever, these old classics, it's always nice to have to kind of put a spotlight on one that most of us probably never got around to playing. Mm-hmm. There's really not much new news when it comes to classic things. That's what I guess makes it classic. So it's nice to be like, hey, if you've beaten Space Quest to death like I have and still love it, I feel bad saying that immediately because I love it so much. I'm sorry, Roger. But if you've just, if you're looking for something a little fresh that's still old, that's a challenge. Then EcoQuest I think is pretty cool. Speaking of news, before we wrap up, it is so rare, as I'm alluding to have new news on old things. And I'm sure a lot of you heard this already. I don't know, because again, there's never new news, so something happened. But according to Kotaku and Screen Rants, of all people, Ken and Roberta Williams' home is for sale.
Yes, we are all very aware of that. Thank you.
So that's it, buddy. Give EcoQuest a go, maybe. Probably.
All right, there you go. And if you have, or when you do, drop us a line. Let us know what you thought about it. We are on Facebook. We are a group and a page. We are on Patreon. Find us there at the Classic Gamers Guild. We're on Twitter at the CG Guild. We're on Instagram at CGG Podcast. And you can send us an email. Probably one of the more ideal ways of contacting us, because neither of us check our Facebook messages. Our email address is mail@classicgamersguild.com.
And don't do a litter.
What?
A littering. Because you're not supposed to litter in the game. Just don't do a murder.